A massive underwater volcano just off the coast of Oregon is set to erupt in 2025. This is the headline that sent shockwaves across social media. Posts on Facebook, Instagram, and X, platforms reaching millions of people, painted a truly terrifying picture. One single post managed to rack up over 130,000 reactions in just 4 days. The language used was intentionally alarmist, and the implications were presented as nothing short of terrifying. But is the Pacific Northwest really on the brink of a major volcanic catastrophe? Or is this a classic case of viral panic, completely obscuring a fascinating and much less frightening scientific reality? Today, we are diving thousands of feet beneath the ocean's surface to uncover the complete truth about the axial seamount, the most active undersea volcano in its entire region. In this deep dive, we will explore exactly why top scientists are forecasting an imminent eruption. Then, we will reveal the surprising and absolutely crucial reason they are telling the public not to worry in the slightest. And finally, we'll discover what this simmering, deep-sea giant can teach us about some of the most genuinely destructive forces on our planet. The bottom line, as one government agency so perfectly put it, is that this entire story is exciting, not hazardous. So let's take a deep breath and separate the scientific facts from the digital fear. The journey begins in the chaotic world of social media, where the story first caught fire. The digital wildfire was ignited by a tiny spark of truth, but it was immediately wrapped in a thick, suffocating blanket of fear. Imagine this for a moment. You're scrolling casually through your daily feed, and suddenly you see it. It's a stark graphic, maybe an ominous map of the United States, with a glowing red dot pulsating just off the western coastline. The captions were masterfully crafted for maximum emotional impact. They spoke of a massive volcano, a legendary sleeping giant finally awakening from a long and deep slumber. Social media accounts with follower counts cresting the 1 million mark relentlessly pushed this narrative, and the algorithms, designed for engagement above all else, eagerly did the rest. The comment sections quickly devolved into a predictable, yet understandable, cascade of raw anxiety and wild speculation. Is this thing going to cause a tsunami? One concerned user would ask, their question echoing the fears of thousands. Why aren't the authorities warning us more about this impending disaster? Another would type, their frustration and sense of helplessness palpable through the cold glass of the screen. For 4 consecutive days, one particular Facebook post became a central hub of digital dread, its reaction count climbing ever higher. 130,000 likes, shares, and worried face emojis. The story expertly tapped into a primal, deep-seated fear of the unknown, of powerful natural forces operating far beyond our sight and completely outside of our control. The ocean's deepest trenches are a realm of profound mystery to most of us, so the very idea of a powerful volcano erupting down there, so close to home, felt like a scene ripped directly from a summer blockbuster disaster movie. The narrative being sold was simple, incredibly powerful, and utterly terrifying. And for millions upon millions of people, this fear-laden post was their very first, and likely only, introduction to the existence of the axial seamount. But behind the swirling storm of viral panic, a very different kind of story was quietly unfolding. A story of meticulous science, of decades of patient observation, and of a truly remarkable prediction. This wasn't some wild guess thrown out for clicks. It was a formal scientific forecast, one that was solidly grounded in years of hard data.
The prediction first came to public attention at the prestigious annual American Geophysical Union Conference, which was held in December of the year 2024. It was there that a distinguished group of researchers, led by the highly respected volcanologist William Chadwick, presented their groundbreaking findings to their peers.
They stood before the scientific community and declared, with a high degree of confidence, that the axial seamount would most likely erupt sometime in the year 2025. How could they possibly be so specific about such a chaotic event? The answer lies in a fascinating geological process known as inflation. The best way to visualize it is to think of the volcano as a giant geological lung, or perhaps a massive balloon being slowly and steadily filled from deep below. Deep beneath the cold, dark seafloor, a vast chamber of magma is constantly and steadily accumulating. As this molten rock builds up pressure, it begins to push the overlying Earth upwards, causing the entire volcanic structure to physically swell and inflate. For years, scientists have had incredibly sensitive instruments placed directly on the seafloor that can measure this swelling with a precision down to the millimeter. They have been watching Axial breathe for a very long time. The volcano has a well-documented history, with previous, well-observed eruptions in the years 1998, 2011, and 2015.
Before each and every one of those events, the data showed the exact same predictable pattern: a slow and steady inflation of the summit, followed by a sudden and rapid deflation as the built-up pressure was finally released and lava erupted onto the ocean floor. By meticulously tracking the rate of inflation after the 2015 eruption, Chadwick and his co-author Scott Nooner could essentially run a geological clock. They saw precisely how fast the magma chamber was refilling and were able to calculate when it would reach its critical breaking point once again. It was a stunning and elegant piece of scientific detective work, a forecast made possible only by a deep and intimate understanding of this particular volcano's unique rhythm. This wasn't an alarm bell being rung in panic. It was the successful culmination of a long-term, carefully planned scientific experiment.
So if the science is real and an eruption is indeed forecast to happen, why isn't this front-page news followed by coastal evacuation warnings? Why are the world's leading scientists, including those at the United States Geological Survey, so incredibly calm about the whole situation? The answer lies in the volcano's unique personality. You see, not all volcanic eruptions are the Hollywood-style explosions that obliterate mountains and darken the skies for weeks. Axial's eruptions are what geologists refer to as effusive. Imagine uncapping a large jar of honey and turning it completely upside down. The honey doesn't explode out in a violent blast. It flows out slowly, steadily, and predictably. That is essentially what happens at axial seamount. Runny, fluid lava gently oozes from vents on the seafloor. There's no catastrophic blast, no towering ash cloud, no earth-shattering boom. The second crucial factor that ensures our safety is its location. Axial seamount is not just underwater, it is in the vast, deep ocean. Its summit is nearly a full mile down, approximately 4,600 feet, or 1,400 meters beneath the waves. That massive, heavy column of water acts as a powerful, silencing lid. The pressure at that depth is immense, which actively suppresses the formation of explosive gas bubbles within the magma. And any heat, sound, or physical disturbance from the gentle lava flow is almost entirely absorbed by the sheer volume of the surrounding ocean long before it could ever hope to reach the surface. This is why the USGS can confidently state that the volcano poses no threat to people or ocean travel. The most famous example of this type of gentle eruption happens on land at volcanoes like Kilauea in Hawaii, where mesmerizing rivers of lava slowly crawl across the landscape. Now, just imagine that very same gentle process happening a mile beneath the ocean's surface. The danger to us on land is effectively zero. It is a truly fascinating twist, isn't it? A predicted eruption that's more of a scientific marvel than a disaster movie in the making. If you are finding this deep dive into the real science as interesting as I do me a quick favor and hit that like button to let us know. It genuinely helps us understand what kind of stories you want to see more of. The eruption of Axial, whenever it finally happens, will be a major event for scientific instruments, not for our emergency services. But the captivating story of axial seamount has another intriguing chapter, one that adds a fresh layer of scientific mystery to the tale. As the year 2025 progressed, scientists around the world watched their instruments with bated breath. According to their carefully constructed models, which were based on the behavior before the 2015 event, the volcano was absolutely primed to erupt. The inflation, the swelling of the magma chamber, had been proceeding just like clockwork. Then, something entirely unexpected happened. By April of 2025, the incoming data showed that the volcano had inflated even more than it had just before the 2015 eruption. It had surpassed its previous known breaking point, yet nothing. There was no eruption. The volcano simply held its breath. William Chadwick, who has been running a public blog with regular updates on Axial since 2012, provided a candid and insightful glimpse into the scientific community's perspective. In a post dated April 30th, 2025, he wrote, "It feels to me like Axial is just treading water lately." It was a perfect and evocative description of the perplexing situation. The rate of inflation continued at its steady, predictable clip. The earthquake rates, another key indicator of volcanic unrest, were fluctuating up and down, but not in a way that signaled an immediate, impending eruption. The volcano was fully charged, pressurized, and seemingly ready to go, but for some reason, it refused to pull the trigger. This is precisely what makes the scientific process so compelling. It's not just about making predictions, it's about what you learn when reality doesn't perfectly match your model. Why was the volcano holding more pressure this time around? Had the geological container somehow become stronger since the last event? Was there a subtle change in the magma's composition that made it less volatile? Or was it simply building up to a slightly larger but still completely effusive lava flow than the last time? These are the fascinating questions that now occupy the minds of the researchers. The forecast wasn't wrong. The volcano's behavior had simply introduced a new, unknown variable into the complex equation. It's a real-time geological puzzle playing out on the dark ocean floor, a mystery that keeps the scientists glued to their data streams, waiting patiently for the gentle giant to finally exhale. So if Axial isn't a threat and its timing is now a bit of a mystery, why should the average person care about it at all? The answer, according to the USGS and researchers worldwide, is that benign volcanoes like Axial are incredibly, fundamentally important. They are our natural laboratories. Think about it for a moment. If you want to understand how to predict a truly devastating, explosive eruption at a volcano on land, you need a safe place to be able to test your theories and your expensive equipment. But doing that on an active, hazardous volcano is, by its very definition, extremely dangerous and difficult. You can't just set up a multi-million-dollar observatory on the slopes of a mountain that might blow itself to smithereens at any moment. Axial seamount, however, provides the perfect training ground. Because its eruptions are predictable and harmless to us, scientists can deploy a dense network of cutting-edge instruments right on top of it. They can monitor its every tremor, measure its every millimeter of swelling, and even take direct samples of the lava when it erupts, all in relative safety. Every single eruption cycle, the slow inflation, the subtle seismic shifts, and the eventual peaceful release provides a priceless treasure trove of data. This data is then used to refine the very models that will one day be used to provide more accurate and timely warnings for far more hazardous volcanoes around the world. Understanding the pre-eruption signals at Axial could help scientists recognize similar patterns at a place like Mount Rainier, or a dangerous submarine volcano elsewhere that actually could trigger a devastating tsunami. The research at Axial helps calibrate the tools and sharpen the minds that are on the front lines of geological hazard assessment. It's a proactive investment in global safety. The work being done here is not just about satisfying scientific curiosity. It is about building a better, more reliable early warning system for the entire planet. As the USGS so eloquently put it, the bottom line, Axial is exciting, not hazardous. It's a crystal clear window into the inner workings of our dynamic Earth, and the lessons we learn from it are absolutely invaluable for all of humankind. So we return to where we started, the viral panic over a massive underwater volcano. The social media posts were technically based on a real scientific forecast, but they callously stripped out all the essential context, replacing it with raw, unfiltered fear. The reality is far more nuanced and, frankly, far more interesting. The axial seamount is indeed an active volcano, and it is very likely to erupt soon. But it is a gentle giant whose activity is confined to the crushing darkness of the deep sea, posing no threat to us on the surface. Instead of a harbinger of doom, it is a beacon of scientific discovery. It's a place where we can learn the language of volcanoes in a safe environment, translating those lessons to protect people from more volatile threats in the future. The story of Axial is a perfect reminder that in an age of instant information, context is everything. Sometimes the most spectacular events on our planet happen quietly, deep beneath the surface, telling a story not of destruction, but of discovery. And understanding those stories is absolutely key to safeguarding our future. We are always digging for the truth behind the headlines, separating the science from the sensationalism. To make sure you don't miss our next deep dive investigation, be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next.